first, let's discuss this nuclear debate. Let's bring in now tonight's political panel, National Senate Leader Bridget Mackenzie and the Menzies Research Centre Executive Director Dave Hughes. Welcome to you both. Bridget, do you think this is a gamble worth taking for the coalition?
Absolutely, Shari, and I really loved your opening segment. We don't see it as a gamble. We see it as providing a credible vision for a safe and prosperous, sustainable future for our country. We're not just interested in getting to net zero by 2050. We still want to be a sovereign country that can not just keep the lights on, but have a fantastic economic growth story in the coming century. And that means having affordable, reliable baseload power generation. Now, with 90% of that reliable baseload going off in the next decade, we need something to replace it. And wind and solar aren't going to do it. We know that. And I'm very, very proud to be part of a team that is putting Australia where it should have been during Howard's years and actually harnessing the opportunity that nuclear power generation brings in a low emissions future.
Oh, Dave, just how big a risk this is for the coalition ultimately comes down to the current view of Australians and whether they are going to support this. Can you tell us a bit about what some of the recent polls have shown about whether Australians do support a move towards nuclear?
A lot has changed since that scare campaign that Anthony Albanese ran in 2007. Back then, 60% of Australians were opposed to nuclear energy. In 2024, 60% of Australians support nuclear energy. We know that because the Lowy Institute has been tracking this issue for a number of years. Labor voters as well support nuclear energy. There was a poll from Jim Reid,
Labor
who runs
premiers.
some of them. There was a poll from Jim Reid, who runs Resolve Strategic, recently as well, that showed that only 28% of Labor voters were opposed to nuclear energy. So the grounds for a scare campaign are significantly different than they were in 2007. So that's something that Anthony Albanese needs to factor in. He also needs to factor in that if he's running a scare campaign around nuclear safety, that scare campaign also undermines the AUKUS submarines that are going to be docked in Adelaide and in Perth, our nuclear reactor that's operated safely not too far from us in southwestern Sydney as well. So he's going to have to be conscious of that if he's looking to run another scare campaign.
And do you think, though, this is going to be a big political risk? I mean, you ran at least the media section of the Liberal Party's last federal election campaign, or the past couple. Do you think this is a big gamble for the coalition?
Well, it's going to dominate. It's going to be one of the issues that's going to dominate the next campaign, that's for sure. Peter Dutton's been open about this, though, for the last year. And in that same time, his vote has strengthened and Anthony Albanese's vote's been declining. And I think younger Australians in particular aren't, they place facts above fear as well. They're more open to nuclear as well. So I think they're going to be persuaded by the facts in this argument and not spooked by three-eyed fish and everything else that Labor will roll out.
All right, let's have a look at Labor MP Josh Burns. And as you know by now, his federal office was vandalised overnight by pro-Palestinian activists. It was what the Jewish MP called a politically motivated attack. Have a look.
No amount of aggression and violence here in Australia is going to change what's happening in the Middle East. This sort of vandalism, this sort of political aggression has no place in Australia. It's enough.
Bridget, you know, what I found so moving about Josh's comments when he held that press conference earlier today is that he made the point that if action isn't taken, there is going to be an attack, that this is escalating. Something worse is going to happen. And we are seeing lawlessness in part because our political leaders and the police aren't doing anything. They're not arresting anyone.
No, Shari, we've talked about this a lot. You're exactly right. The permissiveness, if I can use that word, of state governments, state police forces, and indeed the language being used by the federal government has given tacit approval, shall we say, in people expressing their views in this conflict at home here domestically in ways that I think are reminiscent of the 1930s in Germany. I've been appalled, as you have been, as you've highlighted over many, many months, what's happening on our suburban streets, in our schools, at our universities, in businesses, that you would have been appalled and shocked about in previous decades, that today are being almost tacitly approved or sort of waved away as if we're all helpless in the face of this sort of behaviour.
Yes.
We're not. We have laws. Stop keeping the peace and start upholding the law.
Well said, absolutely agree. And what worries me as well, Dave, is that it's a targeting of Jewish people. And we saw it just yet again overnight with Jerry Seinfeld. You know, he's not a representative of Israel. He's just a Jewish comedian. And, well, let's have a look at what happened again at his show last night.
You're getting them on your side. Can you hear it?
Boo! There's the police.
You have strong political feelings, but you don't know where to say them. You think that ruining the night, it doesn't affect me. All these people, you're ruining their night. Thank you for coming. Did you like the horse pit before you left? Did you get a little laugh anyway?
So good. Did you like the horse bit before you left? I wish we could all see his show. But Dave, you know, it strikes me, and I made this point the other night, that Jerry Seinfeld has a better grasp of security than our Australian Federal Police. He manages to move the pro-Palestinians out. Why can't our police do the same?
He got them out there quicker than Sydney University.
Yes.
That's for sure. As you said before, Shari, he's not out here as a representative of the Israeli government or the Israeli Defence Force. He's not a commentator, a prolific commentator on foreign policy issues. He's out here as a comedian to entertain. And the reason he was targeted by activists is because he's a Jew. And that's something we can't tolerate. And, you know, I'd be making the same point that that's equally as concerning if it was a Muslim comedian targeted solely on the basis of their religion as well. That is something that we cannot tolerate in Australia in 2024.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bridget, I couldn't believe this story in the Sydney Morning Herald. Former Prime Minister Scott Morrison has been denied entry, at least at the moment, but currently he has been denied entry from the elite Australian club. Now, this is a controversial club, but the club secretary, Michael Solomon, said that they have a policy of not commenting on membership nominations. Bridget, this is outrageous. He's a former Prime Minister. You might not agree with his politics, but his service to our country has been enormous.
This is true, Shari, but you and I can't join the Australia Club either. Let's remember that. If I was the Prime Minister, I wouldn't be able to join the Australia Club. So, and we do have a former Premier here in Victoria that's been unable to join a golf club down south of our place. So I do think at the end of the day, these are private entities, for good or for ill, that make these sort of decisions. And you know, I think former PMs, former servants of our country, no matter what side of politics, should be able to join these type of establishments. But I'd be arguing that I would hope that a future female Prime Minister would also be able to join the Australia Club one day. Yes,
indeed. Those are well-made points. I have been for lunch there once or twice, and I don't know why everyone's rushing to join as well. It's a bit stiff. It's a bit boring. I don't remember there being any atmosphere or music or great food. So there are other clubs I'd love to join.
Come on, Dave.
I share that view, and I'm not a member. I'll disclose I'm not a member. But I don't really think it's Scott Morrison's style either. He's happy in shorts watching the footy, so I'm not sure it's really his style anyway.
But look, he applied.
Did he apply? Did he apply?
Yeah, well, the reporting says he did apply. So if he applied, the fact that they rejected him but not the likes of Malcolm Turnbull says a lot.